Okay, I think we are live. Welcome everybody to our panel within the Startup Week of the German Indian Startup Exchange Program GINSEP. My name is Dr. Katja Lasch. I'm the director of the German Center for Research Innovation, and I'm glad to host today's panel on going international with your research-based startup opportunities from India and Germany, of course, as we are an Indo-German setting in this whole events. My thanks goes to GINSEP, who organized this fantastic startup week. I've been followed up a couple of events during the week and also for offering us the opportunity for this wonderful panel. Before I will introduce the panel, maybe just a couple of words on the German Center for Research Innovation. We are a platform fostering the academic exchange and research exchange between India and Germany. We are running a lot of events where we connect researchers, and one of our focus is also on innovation and on entrepreneurship. And you will see a little bit later in the panel, we've been also the main organizers for the Falling Walls Lab over the last couple of years in India. We will tackle that program and that opportunity a bit later, as we have a host institution of the Falling Walls Lab and a winner of the Falling Walls Lab here with us today. But let me start with introducing our panelists. So we have with us, and I'm glad that we are connected from India and Germany, Dr. Alexander Brehm, who is an endowed and institute director at the University of Stuttgart, pretty new at the University of Stuttgart. He was affiliated before with the Friedrich Alexander University of Erlangen-Nuremberg, which is also in Bavaria placed, and now is connected to us from Germany in Bavaria. So welcome, Alexander, to the panel. He is a professor in entrepreneurship, and he's also responsible for building up the entrepreneurship innovation system at the University of Stuttgart. But I also learned that he has been founding his own company, so has he also some practical advices. And he's not foreign to India. He has been to India, I think 3 years ago, if I'm right, for an event on frugal innovation, has been to Bangalore. So there is an India Connect here and knows a bit the Indian scene too. So welcome, Alexander, and glad to have you on the panel.
Thank you very much.
Our second panelist is Dr. Arun Janbak, who's connected from Manipal. He is the Chief Innovation Officer at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education, and he is a professor in biomedical engineering. He's been spending a lot of years in the United States in Boston area. Has been active with Harvard Medical School, but also holds an MBA in executive management from Boston. And he's been since a lot of years into the innovation field in translating research into practice. So welcome, Arun. And I found it extremely interesting. You're also a marathon runner. So this session is not a marathon.
Yes.
But welcome. And of course, we would like to run and not sit in the office, but welcome. And welcome and to our panel. Last but not least, we have Varinder Singh with us, who is connected from Chitkara University. He is a project manager at the university, but more important, he is a founder of GFF. He will tell us what is behind it in a couple of minutes. I found it extremely interesting that he has the experience as a project manager, but also successfully founded its company, who is converting crop waste into powder. And I think basically being placed myself in Delhi and looking out of the window, the air quality, I think it's an extremely important innovation, as crop burning is an issue, as you know. So welcome, Varinder Singh. And I want to say he has been winning the Innovation Week at the Falling Walls Lab and has been also to Germany, so there is a certain connection. So welcome, Varinder, to our panel. I would like the audience to ask their questions to the panelists in the chat. This is an interactive session, so we will not have PowerPoint presentations. Feel free to ask your questions. We will take them up, everything related to taking your startup internationally and also to India and German opportunities. And I probably will kick it off with Arun Janbak. And Arun, I would like to ask you, so you're at Manipal University fostering and innovation and startups. Why are you looking internationally? Wouldn't it be better to keep your startups in Manipal and in India, or why a research-based startup or entrepreneur should look internationally?
Thank you, Katya, for thank the hosts for organizing this and inviting us to the panel, and also for organizing Falling Walls Lab. That was a fantastic program. We hosted it in Manipal last year, and what a great experience to meet all these budding entrepreneurs from around the country. So getting to your question, I think in today's world, we are more interconnected than ever. We are no longer an island, even though India is a big island, if you will, big country. Um, but I think we need to have the international collaboration. Several reasons. Importantly, India is still a developing country, and Katya, you are sitting here and you know that even though we have made great strides in the last 5, 10 years, we have a long way to go. We are not anywhere close to where we are. So I think our researchers, our innovators, and our entrepreneurs need to actually go abroad and see what is happening around the world, particularly in Germany, Europe, and the US, but see the rigor and the discipline which a lot of the testing and everything is done, the rigor and the discipline with which even the innovation is done. And I feel that here in India, we are great innovators, but we want great role models. And I think today, I think we can find those role models in the US, Europe, and other places. That's one part, just an internal rigor. Secondly, I think our newest entrepreneurs, not just in India, all around the world, think, and you have even seen that in China, sorry about that, China, that when you go into the market, your product should be accessible around the world. It's not just made for China. Look at TikTok or look at PUBG or look at Twitter or anything. These are good companies we started and they are global brands. So if you are a global brand, if you want to be a global entrepreneur, your products need to be tested in the international arena, not just for the rigor, but for the regulatory landscape. I think that is very important. The same holds for people who want to do it something in Germany and come back to India. So I think these are the two major reasons. I'll wait to hear what the other panelists say. I think these are two big reasons I feel you should always look out. Yes, there's a big need. Sometimes our products may not suit all the needs, because India is a many different types of populations. But we need to go abroad. We need to go global, and that's the mantra we should have.
Okay, thank you so much for your plan. Maybe we take it to Varinder. So you founded your company. I know that entrepreneurs, founders are extremely busy setting up the business. Nevertheless, you decided to, go for Falling Walls Lab and have a look into Germany. Why?
Thank you, Katya, for introducing me. And this is such a wonderful session. So, Falling Walls is one of my favorite events, and there are four basic reasons why we participated in Falling Walls. First reason is Falling Walls is all about the research-based startups. So, it helps in translating the research that we do in the laboratories to the startups. Second thing is it is about the technology commercialization. Doing research and transforming it to the technology to the commercial scale is a challenge itself. And the programs like the Falling Walls are addressing this challenge. Uh, Third one is Falling Walls is specially designed for early stage startups. So the startups who are just blooming from the university and just getting out of the lab and they wish to transform it to the commercial entities. So this program is well suited for them. And the fourth reason is when we go to a program, we meet a lot of people and we interact with a lot of people and we find new opportunities. So as a startup, our aim is to benefit the society through breakthrough innovations in the science. So this is one of the platform where we can showcase our innovations to the world and can find the potential customers, potential beneficiaries, stakeholders, partners, and uh, and can benefit the society in a well-mannered way.
Okay, thank you so much. And what about Germany? Was it a good experience?
Yes, we all know the Germany is well known for engineering, and since I'm from an engineering background, so Germany is one of my favorite places for the technology. So I have been to Germany a couple of years ago. I was in Berlin. And in the previous year, we have also applied some projects with the Germany through university partnerships, and they really help the technology commercialization process, and they really appreciate the technology, the technology advancements.
Thank you so much. So Alexander, up to you. You're in Germany, so internationalization is important. We learned that already from Arun. What would you tell a German entrepreneur why he should in your university, why he should look international and why he should look maybe also into developing countries and not just into the US.
Yes, thank you very much for introducing me as well. And it's a great experience to be on this panel here today. And I just want to add on what Arun said before, because I think also these days we are so close as never before, right? We are also sitting now at very different places. And with social media, we can connect all over the world within seconds or minutes, which I still think is pretty exciting. If people from 20, 30 years ago would see this, what we can do today. And this opens up also very interesting opportunities for entrepreneurs, because you mentioned eBay before, or Amazon as American platforms, but also Chinese platforms like Alibaba. With 2 clicks, you can sell your product from wherever the world to wherever you want to sell it, right? Where a customer is. So I think just bearing this customer perspective in mind, it's just a great opportunity. Still, you need to consider you also have to pay a lot. So if you want to use these channels, they also want their share. But still, this is quite unique. Even as at Amazon, as the biggest platform, it's just a few clicks away and you can go ahead. And this is why we also see in research more this company called Born Globals, because you can also hire globally people. They can also work at different places all over the world. And this also creates new opportunities because you don't have to have everything in place. And we as Germany, as you know, we are export oriented. So we need our customers all over the world beyond the great engineering which is happening here. And this is also why it's very important to have this global perspective. And I also spent 3 years at the University of Southern Denmark. And Denmark is even smaller, a much smaller country. And for them, it's the same strategy, right? You have to go out and meet other people, go to other countries. And for this, you need to understand the culture. And when I was in India last time, I also learned that we also have a very good connection, so to say, at least when I compare myself with my Indian colleagues when I was talking to them. So I think this cultural thing is also something quite interesting, which students also have to learn. What's the difference being in China or in India, for instance? And I think there's a big difference.
Okay, so you would suggest your students to go to India. I think one of the major differences, you can survive here with English language. That's my experience. I mean, I've been to China. That's one advantage of India. But yeah, I think you tackled a very important issue: cultural differences and cultural approaches. So maybe Arun, you're working in a university and in a large facility which has a lot of international students. So why it's so important for Manipal to get international students, and are you also connecting these international students in your incubation or to your incubation facilities?
Yes, thank you, Katya. By the way, I want to commend Alexander. He really nailed some of the last points of getting the global audience, and I think those are very apt. We are a global, we would like to be a global university, just like markets are global. So we feel that we have a good education at a very good price point to offer around the world. And if people are in the US or wherever want to try out a semester here, they should do it. I think that's very important for them to open their eyes to the Indian market, sort of. If you spend a semester here, you'll understand all the things what Alexander is talking about. There's a cultural difference, and Katya, you're learning that firsthand. You will actually experience that, what those issues are. Now, we do try to, let me finish that first question, the second part of the first question. By the same token, we want to brand ourselves Manipal internationally. So, we are a very small, we started only a few years ago. I think 14 years or something is when the university has been around. And we want to be known, I think, around the world, like, hey, this is a small university there, it's a good education provider, and we want to do it. So that is another reason. And for us, for our students, think about it, without leaving the country, they're getting exposure to an international culture. Of course, we want our students to go abroad also, but having them here with us and sharing that culture here, it's a great experience, even for our students. So it's enriching, not just them, it's enriching us. It's like a guest, when the guests come, not just the guests benefit, we benefit by that interaction with our guests. So I think that is very important. We try to include them in a lot of our innovation, particularly not incubation. Incubation is when they already have a startup. We haven't started that. We would love to. If somebody wants to come and join us, please let us know and we'll try to facilitate that. But we try to engage them right in the innovation process. We have a lot of people, students from Malaysia and from the Caribbean islands and different places nearby, but still foreign, who come and participate in our innovation things because they feel they don't get this in their country. So in a way, we are still the aspiring beacon, if you will, for some of the smaller countries around us. And we are very happy to provide that resources for the surrounding countries. So I think we would try to do it. We would like to welcome other German or other international companies who want to come and at least do some of the clinical trials. One thing I do want to mention is, India has a large population. Yes, it's very easy to do a clinical study quickly. I'm not saying we are lax. We do have a very good regulatory landscape, regulatory framework. And thirdly, particularly in the biomedical area, we have a very skilled workforce. Our doctors and nurses are very, very skilled, on par with the US, I would say, probably Germany also. But I think we have a very skilled workforce. So I think these are all things I think which make India attractive for somebody who wants to consider trying out some of the products or even testing it out or evaluating it in this context.
Okay. Maybe something to add on here. I think if you look also on the common traits beyond the cultural issues, we also have engineers all over the world who do great research, but they're also afraid of doing exactly what you just mentioned, right? Go out to the customer, give it a try, test the product, and I think this is something they can also learn together then in such a great environment.
Yes, and then we are here to handhold you. So we are creating a safe environment where you can actually do that interaction. And by the way, it's difficult for us also when we go out in the field and test our products. So I can imagine what it's like, others. But here it's like the university is like a safe bubble where you can try many of these things, with somebody to help you and guide you without a big penalty, if you will.
I think that's the main takeaway, that the university offers you a safe environment, even if you go abroad, maybe to another university, and then you can test and you will be guided. It's something different if you just take your startup out of the blue and try to go international or your entrepreneurship. As we were talking about learning, I would ask a question to Varinder. So you've been talking about the Falling Walls Lab, the great opportunities which is offering, and I think there have a look what Falling Walls is all about. But you participated, unfortunately, this year in a virtual innovation week at the University of Stuttgart, where Alexander is. So it's not by any chance that we have two people here related to Stuttgart. So what was your learning? What was your takeaway for you personally in the training you received? And was it an opportunity or was it just waste of time?
So this was one of the best opportunity that I have got during the pandemic time. I met a lot of friends. I got connected with the incubator in University of Stuttgart, and we exchanged few words and few ideas with each other. And I came to know about the funding opportunities in Germany and how the German startup ecosystem works. What are the scope that is being provided by the university to the students, and most importantly, I got to know more about the culture in Germany. So whenever you visit any other country or you are going to do some work in other country, you need to really know about the work culture there. So that helps you in a long term. So I think the best part was I made a lot of friends, and we were a cohort of many people from all around the world. So there were people from Brazil, there were people from other countries as well. So there were a few people from the Europe as well. So it was a cross-cultural exchange program. So this always works, and this works very well.
Good connections. I think that's why we called also our panel Go International, and then we added the Indo-German perspective on it. Alexander, maybe to you. So University of Stuttgart decided to host the Innovation Week. So why did you do so? Why try you connect your students? Aren't we having enough entrepreneurs in Stuttgart?
You can always have more entrepreneurs, right? and as you know, the Stuttgart region is also special because we have very big companies, the headquarters here of Daimler, Bosch, and among others. And for this, it's also important in a technical university as we are to foster also this entrepreneurial spirit, also especially among the engineering students, that this is also an alternative career path. And for many of them, it was maybe also easy just to go to one of the big companies, but also to have a good track to go on this more entrepreneurial path is also a good option we would like to offer. And as we also have a quite high portion of international students, that's also what Arun was just mentioning, a way to connect in the university already, and then ideally also having a connection already to India, like in this case, where somebody is returning to India and then helping setting up a business also beyond the German landscape. And if you look into platforms or software businesses, that's also no problem actually these days to do this kind of thing. So you can also have a virtual office in several cities and do your business ahead with your partners you just met before. So this is why we are fostering this a lot. And this is why we also very much engaged in all the programs like Falling Walls and others to make this even more visible also to our environment.
Thank you. Thanks about it. I get two questions, and I think they go in the same direction. So it's how to find co-funders, trusted co-funders, or trustful contacts. I would say also the second question, if one is looking for in a specific field. So Arun, could people come to you and say, "Oh, I look for interesting people"? Would you connect people, or how you would suggest them if somebody is trying to find a co-funder in India, for instance, an international startup? So do you facilitate these things?
Yes, I'm reading the question here also. So I think they're looking for a sector agnostic platform. And I will agree, whoever raised the question, it's very lacking. We do not have a sector agnostic platform where we can go and find tech people around. As I was reading that, I'm thinking that's a great idea for a new business opportunity, because the only thing we have right now is LinkedIn. Because if I want to find somebody, I think LinkedIn is the way to go. I don't know how about in Germany, but in the US here, I just go on LinkedIn and try to find people. There are very few where we can do something for small and medium enterprises or startup enterprises. And I think there's a big need. I'm just thinking like, whoa, that's a need for a tech shop. I mean, like a platform, like a LinkedIn for startups, right? I mean, I think we definitely need that. But the second question, I think, how we can help Katja and Conrad, whoever asked the question, is can definitely address that first part, the occupational health prediction based on heartbeat data. That's something you can definitely do right away. You have to tell us what you're looking for, and we will handhold you through the ethics committee approval process. So it's not very, we have a university-wide ethics committee process, and I do a lot of my research through that. We can definitely do that at Manipal. I can put you in touch with the right people to do that. Another part of the question is research on gas sensing with low cost. I think I need a lot more details on that, but need some development. We can try it, but I'll tell you, Germany is very good at technology, better than India. So I'm just saying. So if you already have something and you want to test it here, that would be the place, particularly for the second part. For that heartbeat data, absolutely yes, we are willing to do that. And by the way, this is not new for Germany. This question is not new. We're getting a lot of requests even within India. Can you do this, Manipal? And I'm like, of course, yes, we can do it. Why do you think we cannot do it? We can do it. So I think that culture is slowly opening up, and Manipal is open to that type of environment and collaboration around the world. So, Katja, if you will bear with me, I would like to add a small thing to what Alexander said.
Yeah, of course, go ahead. Yeah.
Why entrepreneurship and why innovation? Why in Stuttgart? And I will just tell you, in India, the answer is population. It's a huge population. Every year, we are adding 40 million people to the workforce. We cannot create 40 million new jobs every year. Right? And even the jobs we have are being eroded by automation and like artificial intelligence and everything. So what we are training our students is, listen, don't look for the job. They may not even be there, what you're looking for. Rather than being a job taker, become a job creator. Create the world you want to live in, and you become an entrepreneur. So you're actually hiring people rather than you're just sitting in an office and taking up a job, which may not even be there in a few years. So very short, I just want to add to what Alexander had mentioned to your earlier question.
Okay,
right. We have exactly the opposite problem, right? It's the other way around. We have much more jobs than people who could work in this area. So this is something we are looking for. And also to add on to your point, I think we're also very open if students come and ask for connections about colleagues to do research. Like in these cases, I have no clue who this could be, but I can find out, right? So let me know, and we're also happy to help and connect, and then we can at least open the right door.
Yes, I think that's a good takeaway for the audience, that the universities are open and could connect, even if we are lacking a platform, so that people could address you. I would go over to Varinda, as you're also working as a project manager. And I mean, we've talking about falling walls, but I mean, when we had our little pre-discussion, I just learned you're also into Horizon 2020 projects, for instance. So are there other opportunities besides falling walls which you would recommend? International research projects, so whatever. What are you up at Chitkara University?
So at Chitkara University, we have an incubation center. We support the startups and we help them to go international as well as to go at the national level first and then internationally. So for the new startups, we teach them. We teach them in a learning way about what is entrepreneurship and about how to create the value and how to transform the research ideas to a tech product, how to think and how to empathize with the customers. So that's what we really do with the techies in the university, and we prepare them for a commercial world. And then we handhold them to make the business plan, and then we provide them the opportunities for various national forums where they can display their technology, get some initial funds, and we also have some funding support in the university. We support the technology ideas for the university faculty and for the students. We have some fund from the government of India for that. And even the university facilities that are all open to the entrepreneurs that are incubated in our university.
That's that's good to see. You mentioned funding. I think that's an interesting topic, and I would ask the question to Alexander Brehm. I mean, there is this funding scheme in Germany, which is providing up to 100,000 euro for a startup. No, is this open for internationals, or is this a closed shop for Germans?
No, this is open to pretty much everybody who's living here and want to start here. So ideally, because it's a government program, we would have the startups then around in the region. But this is open to everybody, and we also have many international students who also go in that direction. And this is also one of our main tasks, I think, being at a university, that we are the kind of the matchmaker between the engineers who might have the idea to meet the business person who helps with the business case, and the salesperson who goes out and finds the right customer for the product. So I think this kind of matchmaking is also an important part here. And with this Exist fund, this is at least for 1 or, depending on the funding scheme, for 2 or 3 years, you can at least have a kind of startup ramp, you know, to give it a try. But this is also what we tell our students. The best point in your life to start a company is after your course of studies, because you still have, you know, the living costs are still low, and you're usually not that set by location, and you're still more flexible. And for sure, if you're more successful because you have a network 10 years after, but just the chance to do it is just great to give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, you can still do something else. And this is also kind of mind change I also saw in Germany the last 10, 15 years, because when I started my company, this was in 2004, it was more like, oh, you didn't get a job at Siemens or somewhere, so you have to do a startup. And now students come to me and say, well, I want to have my own startup. You know, that's also a mind change. And this is something we need to foster a lot, I think. And an important part is also this international perspective, because also these days when students or pupils graduate from school, they're not typically German, go right ahead to their, you know, to get the first job and the next job, but they say, yeah, I want to travel for 1 year and learn more about the world. And this kind of attitude in a positive sense, you can also use a lot in the startup context. And so I'm also happy to hear that Aaron is also fostering this in India. So a good excuse to visit him. Also.
And to have an intercultural experience, no, isn't it? But maybe a question here which goes to Varinda, as he's a newly founder. So how early should one look at international experiences? You also mentioned that at Chitkara you tried to at a very early stage. So how early one should look? Already in planning, after funding the startup?
So once the startup has some established name in India and they have got the MVP, minimal viable product, then they can look after to go internationally. Then they can find the partners to advance the technology. I mean, first we should validate the product in India. If it is well validated in India, we can always go international.
Okay, good. I only want to add something. I mean, if we look more on the entrepreneurial spirit, let's say before the startup. Arun?
Oh, yes. Sorry about that, Katya. I just wanted to add to what Varinder mentioned. I think it's also dependent on the sector you are in. If you are a fintech or just a pure tech play or a software type app or based something startup, I think you can go pretty quickly internationally. But I think, and it would not be the case in a biomedical type tech, startup. Let's take the former. I still think, as Varinder said, you need an MVP. I still think you need to have a pilot experiment done, pilot study is slightly larger. And if you're a pure tech play or a pure fintech, there's no reason why you should not really have a good foothold in the Indian market. You may not be known, but you need to have a good sizable content and customer base. But when you do go abroad, the investor should be able to say, wait a second, he can do that or she can do that so fast. Maybe we have a market here. And I think for particularly the earlier you want to go, you need to tell us, or I'm sitting in the US now, I'm just saying, you need to tell us why you think the population in the US is better suited to adopt your technology than where you are right now. Maybe it is, but I mean, I wouldn't know that type of a question.
Okay.
Because to add on here, Varinder, I also think that's a good point. When should you start it really, right? To go into another market, and I think we have this development of frugal innovation, so that also customers are somehow tired, also in Germany and other Western markets, of over-engineered products and a washing machine with 27 buttons, and you only need two. So I think there's also a growing market also for Indian products which have proven that they work on the market, also to be sold in Germany. And there are also quite some examples these days how this can happen. So I think this is also not only a one-way street, but also the other way around, that you can also have high-tech products based on resource constraints also from India, which you can sell in Germany. And the second point was also related to Startup Autobahn, which was presenting just before this session, that this is exactly what they do. So they go to companies and say, in which area are you looking for a startup? And then they scout worldwide the best startup for this topic. So it's then the tricky part, how do you end up on their shortlist, right? That's then another story of what you said, you have to be somehow prominent also in your local market, like India in this case. And then also sometimes other markets will adopt you even automatically, like with this venture client model from Startup Autobahn.
Yeah, it's always good to start early. And I agree with Arun, it depends upon sector to sector. I think one should start as early as possible, because you get to know more about the customers, because sometimes one has to modify his product for other countries. Like in our case, in India, we see our product purely for the agriculture sector, but this might not be the case for the European countries where agriculture is not that much prominent. But yeah, we have similar application in other areas of renewable energy there. So I think one should start as early as possible.
Yeah, maybe I would even take it a step forward or earlier. I mean, I'm also heading the DAD, the German Academic Exchange Service, and I think even in your studies, if you go abroad, connecting, having a look at the ecosystem, if you're a student, so before you found your startup, to get this intercultural sensitivity, it's quite important. So I think there's not too early in your scientific career already, even if you don't establish your startup, but you're thinking about and saying, oh, let's have a look into Germany or into India. We would strongly encourage also our students to look in the innovation ecosystem if they go abroad. So maybe as a different perspective from an organization who's fostering also student exchange, even exchange within PhDs. And we had examples where PhD students went to Germany, got inspired, got an idea developed, came back to India, and then developed their product here in India. But we also had the other case of two young German girls who came to India, got inspired, and then developed their startup with an Indian product in Germany. So I think it's not too early to connect internationally. Market entrance, of course, is a different discussion. I would take up maybe the frugal innovation questions, because when we look in Germany and to India, then it's always coming the frugal innovations up, or if you look at the latest report on the UNESCO. And I would ask Arun, so my feeling is India would have more to offer than just frugal innovations. And what is about high tech at your place?
Yeah, I think it's a easy and a tough question. There's two pieces to it. The second part is very tough. So I'll take the first one. You know, when I was in Boston, we were doing innovation, and the word frugal innovation is all the time. Everybody talks about its frugal innovation. Every time I think of India, it's frugal innovation. Because India is a poor country, it's a developing world, 1.3 billion people, and all these movies you see where they all live in the slums. But when I have come to India, Indians never think of the word frugal innovation. I mean, I don't think you have heard frugal innovation from an Indian, Katya. And actually, I am surprised at the amount of money the Indian government has earmarked for innovation. I think in particularly one of the schemes, the Bharat Big Ignition Grant, they're shelling out about $1 billion a year per year on grants for startups, which equivalent, each student gets, each startup can apply for about 80,000 or 100,000 US dollars. So I don't know, that's about maybe 90,000 euros or something around that, 95,000. So they're giving that, and they're giving like about 100 of these, 1,000 of these per year. And so it's like nearly $1 billion going in one scheme. When I look at the amount of money India is spending, it's mind boggling. And I'm actually talking to many of the managers saying, why are you giving so much money? Like, slow down. I mean, slow down. But I think the reason India is frugal is because we can do more with less. It's not that we are saying we want to make it cheap. We can do more with less. And I want to address what I think now in the US or Germany, we have 27 buttons and so many programs and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's what is happening. I've seen that in the biomedical world, if you will. Let's say, sorry, bear with me, Katya, on this. Let's say you're making a hip implant. And the way the company looks at it is saying, I have a hip implant. If I add a new feature to it, can I add an extra $100 to the cost of it? So now $100 times the million implants, you would say, I have $100 million to spend. So if I spend 25 million, it's okay because I'm making $100 million. So that's why I think the innovation becomes expensive, because you are looking at it from, let's add a new feature and add an extra dollar worth or so many dollars worth to it. But in India, it's the exact opposite. We're saying, because we don't have anything, we say, let's create this. And what is the cost for me to create it? And how much do I profit need to add? And that's my cost. And that cost suddenly becomes like, oh, that's cheap. It's very inexpensive. That's frugal innovation. But I don't think it is because of that. It's just the way our starting base is very lower.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly the point, that frugal innovation is something different than Jugaad, right? So you're not just fixing somehow, but it's a conscious process how you do this. And for this, I also think frugal innovation is not necessarily cheap. It's a good price, but it's not necessarily a cheap product, at least from a research perspective. And I think this is also something which companies also look even more into it, also to use these principles, because usually in Germany you don't have any resource constraints. You always have energy, streets, material, time. You have usually too much of everything, and this leads exactly to this over engineering. So exactly. It's also that German companies now try to learn to do it, so to say, the Indian way, to also understand, also using high technology, but to have a product who is good in maintenance, who has a affordable price, but still it's not a low price product in that sense. So I think that's also a common misunderstanding of what frugal innovation is all about.
But I think that's a perfect coming back to internationalization, international, a perfect thing you can see in this discussion ongoing on. So to learn the understanding and the perspective the other ones. What is frugal innovation in Germany? You call it Jugaad in India, and you have a different understanding, and to learn from each other and to point it out. I think that's pretty nice here. I have one short question, Arun. You mentioned this $1 billion scheme from the Indian government. Is that open also to international startups, or do you have to be in India for it?
It can be a collaborator, but 51% of startup needs to be Indian owned.
Okay, but I could come in 49% as
yes.
Okay,
yes.
I think that's important to know.
I'm a US citizen. I'm not even an Indian citizen. So I'm a US citizen, and I work with teams, and we do that. So that's, it seems kind of like in the beginning, but it's fair. India's doing it. They want to develop the innovation entrepreneurship experience. So it has to be owned by an Indian team at 51%. The startup has to be owned. You can come in 49 and do the work. So no problem at all.
Okay, but I think that's a nice opportunity and good to know.
There are many such opportunities, and I have I can put you guys on some of the mailing lists, and I can send you some of the information. There are so many opportunities to do that kind of work. So,
yeah, I think that's important to know. And I had here a question: how do you support early startups at your German Center for Business? So we are German Center for Innovation, not for business, I want to mention, but it's exactly what we are doing. We're spreading out information. So we are not incubating as a German Center for Research and Innovation, but we try to connect what we do through this panel. So to give the information on the German system, on the Indian system, connecting Indians to Germany, Germans to India. So that's what the German Center for Research and Innovation is doing. It's a platform of connecting, lesser than funding, but we have the information available on the different funding schemes available in Germany, and pretty soon also in detail on the Indian ones if Arun is sending me the schemes over.
Yes, and maybe later, when they come to our university, like from your German center, we have a startup coaching team who then helps you further. So we have different backgrounds of engineering and business. So if it's a very early stage idea, or you just come and say, I have no idea, no plan, but I want to get involved, whatever you have, we help you. And this is more or less the case at each university now these days.
I mean, each German university has a startups or an incubation center, and is therefore for helping out and quite open for internationals as mentioned. Yeah, so this, I think that's important to know that one can connect. I think the whole startup scene, innovation scene is quite open, and there is a lot of help there, and especially in connecting, and also the platform which is hosting us, of course, today, not to forget the German the IGSW, so which is hosting us today, who has also a lot of opportunities. There is also a German accelerator in place, so who accelerates German startups in India. So there's a couple of funding schemes available. So Varinder, as you've been to Germany, what was the most interesting for you in that week, approach-wise, like from the methodology? Was there a difference? How did your pitch deck in India and your pitch deck in Germany, or was it the same thing just with different trainers?
So definitely there is a difference, and it basically it depends like what we are targeting. So the people that we came in contact with during the innovation week, there were a mix of technical people, and there were a mix of business people. So we obviously I got to know more about the business and the prospect of an investor, and we interacted with a lot of people who have who have already established companies in Germany, and we got to know more about their viewpoint, like how a startup looks like in Germany. So that's what we have learned, and it is different from India, yeah, because the culture of India is different, and the culture in Germany is different.
What is the difference?
So I think we all know the difference. So you know all the differences because you have lived in Germany as well as in India.
So you give the question back to me. Okay. I would say there is not even such a different. Things are approached a bit different, but I would say there is a common understanding. And my feeling, especially in the innovation scene, is that things are pretty smoothly, as is there's a common understanding of things. And I mean, we don't want to talk about stereotypes here, but of course, I mean, the setup is a bit different. I would say, and of course there are differences, but it's important that one understands each other. That's what I would say. It's not I would not touch on the differences. I would touch more on the common ground we have, and to get a better understanding of it. Alexander, maybe back to you, as Arun talked about this Indian funding scheme and available. So what about the German funding scheme? Is there getting money into the startup field at universities, especially? I mean, we're not talking about the hairdresser next to the corner. So is there funding available, and is this funding also open for international cooperation?
I guess you would be surprised how many different funding opportunities we have in Germany, because also Germany has 16 different counties, and in each county it's different, and it's even different in each city. So it makes a big difference if we're in Berlin, in Munich, in Stuttgart, or in Hamburg, because you're in different counties. But as an overall program, the one you were mentioning already exists. You can find this all over Germany at each university, also with some funding programs. For instance, they also fund our coaches at the moment I was referring to. But there are also many local programs. So for instance, in Baden-Württemberg, the county we are in, we also have governmental programs where if you have an investor who is bringing in a certain amount, then the state gives you another big amount actually to your startup. Or you can have cheap facilities, for instance, with a low rent, especially if you're technology oriented, you need space and where a truck can come and load and unload things. And also to make use of this advantage we have in Germany in terms of infrastructure and connecting the dots. So there are many, many different programs. And this is why you should always contact somebody on site to help you navigating through, because doing it online from India, that's a challenge. And I would always suggest to contact somebody here. But that's maybe also an opportunity. On the other hand, if you say, what kind of startup do you have and where's the best place to go? So if you have the luxury situation to say, well, what's the best place for XYZ topic, then you can also try to find this out. So if you're in the mobility sector, I guess there's no better place than Stuttgart area to go. But for many creative industries, for instance, people also tend to go to Düsseldorf or Berlin. So it depends on the industry, and then you can also find your certain clusters, and they have also then special programs which are especially designed for this kind of clusters on site.
I think that's an important hint. So in Germany, you have certain clusters, no, where, because it depends on the industry which is around there. And as automotive industry is really strong in the southwest, like Baden-Württemberg, it's going there. High tech, you have a lot of computer sciences in Munich area. And then in chemistry and in these fields, it's Dortmund. So it's a very important hint to see a bit where the industry is, and then you find a certain startup culture in that.
Also, proximity matters, at least in normal days, because if you're in Stuttgart in 10 minutes, you can visit Daimler or Porsche or other companies, and you don't have to schedule a meeting a week in advance and travel 2 hours. So that's just an advantage, right? And it's also a disadvantage at some point, but we also have other startups, but still it also makes sense that in this mobility area, if you're close by, this makes sense. But we also have many SMEs or big SMEs like Trumpf, or many B2B companies. So I think also in terms of B2B, Stuttgart area is also a hotspot. If it's more B2C, there are other areas who have better support also to offer in this area.
Yeah. Arun, if I would be a German student or entrepreneur looking into India, the same holds true for India. I mean, everybody, if I would know something, I would know, Bangalore it is, but I'm sure there are other startup hotspots in India, and it holds the same true that's related to the industries.
I think you're right. India is not as developed in the cluster as Germany is, and I think you have. And then I would just want to go back a little bit to Alexander's point that funding varies by county. He said, I think different regions. India is still just new to innovation and startup entrepreneurship as a government focus. So right now, all the funding is very centrally directed. It is not, states are slowly catching up to it, but primarily everything is coming down from the main Ministry of Science and Technology. So everything comes from there, and it percolates in every university it goes through. now a few states like Karnataka, where Bangalore is, and maybe Andhra Pradesh, are trying to say, you know what, we need to bring these clusters together. So that is the part. The advantage is, funding is all centralized. So you can be anywhere. You can be in Manipal, which is like a little tiny rural place in the middle of nowhere. It still takes like a few hours from Bangalore to get here. So in India, we do have a few sectors, I think, particularly for technology. Hyderabad and Bangalore and Chennai is coming up as a big sector for manufacturing. Outside of Bombay is a big sector for manufacturing. Also, Pune is there. Bombay itself is a good social entrepreneurship sector there. So, but I don't think they're as developed as Alexander talks about. Like, 10 minutes you go and see Daimler or some of the other companies. So I think we still have a long way to go there. But definitely Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bombay are slowly becoming the places, to some extent Delhi, some places where, if you're having a startup, it's good. They're still thinking of getting the funding and the interaction, because that's where a lot of the funding, big universities are, and a lot of the big clusters are forming slowly. Yeah. We are in Manipal, and I'll tell you, we do have disadvantage because it's a beautiful, pristine environment. We don't have a large manufacturing sector anywhere nearby. So if we want to do any kind of a molding, rubber, plastic manufacturing or anything, for devices or anything, we're like, okay, we have to go to Bangalore or we have to go somewhere else. So we do have some of those drawbacks. But medicine, you can come to Manipal anytime and we'll help you. There's a question here about epilepsy.
I'm unfortunately, I think we have to come to an end. Maybe we can answer the questions afterwards. So I just got to know our really engaging and joyful discussion has to come to an end. So I would ask each panelist and just give me one sentence. What is your main suggestion for an international entrepreneur who wants to have a look, for you, Alexander, into India, and for you, Arun and Varinder, into Germany? So one sentence, what is your hot tip for India?
That's a good question. I would say, if it a bit more in general, the best way to start things is now, not tomorrow, not in 2 weeks, but whatever you plan, give it a try and do it now.
Okay, Varinder?
So for me, it is like, be open, talk to people, get to know about them, search on internet about the existing opportunities, and DAAD TAT is one of the best organization in India who is working for Indo-German link. And we can get a lot of information subscribing to the newsletters of TAT and other agencies. So one should be open and don't be limited. Start today and interact with everyone.
Good, hard job for you. What to add?
Okay, so if a startup entrepreneur wants to go into Germany, the first thing I will tell them is look at the strength of Germany. Make sure your tech is very rigorous and your I's are all dotted and your T's are all crossed before you get into it, because that's the way the population is going to be, and looking at the product. So you better do your homework on the technology first, and primo.
Okay, good. So do it now, be open. And if you want to go to Germany, be rigorous and have your homework done, is the suggestions to our international audience here. My suggestion would be also connect to the German Center for Research and Innovation. We can help you in the questions and connect to us. Have a look at our website. Falling Walls Lab is coming up next year. We will run it online. Applications will be on in April, so follow our channels. We have exciting information ongoing, and we can also connect you to the speakers. My thanks go to Alexander, Arun, and Varinder for these useful insights and for this lively discussion. I really enjoyed it. My thanks goes to the audience for your questions and for your interest in our session. And my thank goes to my team at the DBH New Delhi, and of course to GINSEP, who organized this wonderful event. So for me, it remains me to wish you a nice evening, a nice noon in Germany, and have a nice weekend, and hope to see you soon at one of the DBH events or at one of our channels.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alexander, Katya, and Varinder. Hope we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, keep in touch. Okay.
Thanks, Alexander.